For decades, the story of India's power sector was, well, it was written in red ink. We're talking staggering, almost unbelievable losses that just seemed like a permanent part of the economy. But that story, it just got a massive plot twist. What we're going to unpack right now is a genuine turnaround, a journey from deep, deep in the red to, for the first time in a very long time, back in the black.
Right, so when you think of India's state-run power companies, or DISCOMs, this is probably the kind of image that comes to mind. It's this massive, essential network that, for years, has been totally synonymous with financial trouble and inefficiency. Honestly, it was a problem that seemed almost too big to solve.
So the big question is, after all this time, what on earth could have changed to reverse such a long and frankly difficult trend? Well, the answer lies in one absolutely stunning number. There it is, 2,701 crore rupees. And let's be super clear here. That is not a loss. It's not a government bailout. That is pure profit, posted by India's power distribution utilities for the last financial year. Wild.
This isn't just some small improvement, This is a historic reversal. For the first time in recent memory, the entire sector has shifted from losing money to actually making it. And to really grasp the scale of this achievement, you've got to understand the massive hole they just climbed out of.
Okay, so let's get some context on this mountain they had to climb. And I'm not kidding, the numbers are truly eye-watering.
I mean, just look at the sheer scale of this change. A decade ago, the combined loss was over 67,000 crore rupees. Just let that sink in. To swing from that colossal loss to a profit of over 2,700 crore, that's a revolution for the entire sector. Simple as that.
And this didn't just happen in a single year, which is really important. You can actually see the trend forming. The data shows that losses had already been significantly cut in the year before this. So that tells us it's not a fluke, right? It's the result of a real, sustained effort.
So, the crucial question is, how? How did they possibly pull this off? Well, it really boils down to tackling two key areas of inefficiency head-on. Let's break them down.
First up is something called AT&C losses. The easiest way to think of this is the electricity that gets produced but never actually paid for. It gets lost through things like old equipment, power theft, or just plain old problems with billing and collection. It's been a huge, huge drain on the system for years.
And the progress here is just undeniable. A decade ago, nearly a quarter of all power generated was just gone, lost. Today, that number has been slashed to just over 15%. That is a massive operational improvement, and it means billions in revenue that was literally evaporating is now being collected.
Okay, this second big piece of the puzzle is something called the ACS-AR gap. Now, in simple terms, it's the difference between what it costs to supply 1 unit of electricity and how much money is actually collected for it. For years, these companies were selling power for less than it cost them to deliver. I mean, that's just a fundamentally broken business model.
And look at this. You can see that gap shrinking dramatically. They went from losing 78 paise on every single unit of power to just 6 paise. That level of financial discipline is a total game changer, and it's what's fundamentally fixing that broken business model.
Now, a huge part of this came from one single policy change, the late payment surcharge rules. And boy, did this create a domino effect. It basically forced financial discipline, leading to a staggering, get this, a 96% drop in outstanding debts to power generators. And the time it takes for the utilities to get paid, slashed by over 2 months. Suddenly, cash is flowing through the system so much faster.
So look, a profit is great news for the companies, for sure. But why does this matter to the rest of the country? Well, the implications are absolutely huge.
As the Minister for Power, Manohar Lal, put it, this marks a new chapter. And he's right. A financially healthy power sector is the backbone of economic growth. It means more reliable electricity, better infrastructure, and the ability to invest in the future without constantly relying on government bailouts. This is a major victory, no doubt about it. But the work isn't done. The next steps are already being planned to build on this incredible success.
So you'll want to keep an eye out for this, the Electricity Amendment Bill. According to officials, this piece of legislation is seen as the next big push to keep this trend of profitability going and to reform the sector even further.
And that leaves us with the big question, doesn't it? After decades of losses, the sector has finally turned a corner. The numbers are real, the reforms are working. But is this the beginning of a truly sustainable, profitable future? Or is it just a temporary bright spot? Well, only time will tell, but for the first time in a long, long time, the outlook is absolutely electric.